All right, everybody, welcome to the next roundtable for Usui Reiki Ryōhō. This is being offered by, or through, I should say, the Usui Reiki Ryōhō support and community group that I run on Facebook. And it's an opportunity to discuss all things Reiki and Reiki Ryōhō related, an opportunity to ask questions or to just have an open discussion about the practice. So and I know everybody who is here with me now and who may be joining later in the conversation are here to support and talk and discuss and grow together. So this is an open conversation at any moment. Please do feel free to unmute yourself, ask your questions, offer up your stories or your positions that you would like to discuss with the group. And we will continue to build from there. I'll offer my take and my opinions and my beliefs on your questions, and I do hope they help. So I turn the floor over to everybody here. If you have any questions to kick it off, feel free to get started. You got anything there, Roger? Did you have anything in mind? Don't mean to put you on spot there, but
yeah, I was listening to one of your talks yesterday, and you said not to be attached to happiness or not to be attached to suffering or emotional highs or lows. Of course, I'd love to stay attached to happiness, but that's much an attachment, I guess. So it's kind of like when you say neutral, you really mean neutral.
Well, in theory, yes. I mean, we're all human first and foremost, right? So if there's any attachments, then maybe it's better to be attached to happiness and joy and love and all these types of things, right? As opposed to misery and suffering and difficulty. We don't want, at some point, in my opinion, we want to be free of all attachments. If I can move with equanimity and peace through everything in life, which is Onsen Ritsume, one of the core practices of Usui Reiki Ryōhō, well, then that means I'm naturally at peace. And I'm always reminded of the phrase, if you love something, you set it free. So to really love something, to really be in a state of pure love is to be non-attached, to not have possession over something. And I know that the conversation about happiness as an attachment can sometimes be a little bit jarring, but the example that I give is like if we have a really beautiful Reiki session, a really profound moment, like, wow, I was so still in that, practice. My mind was flat, whatever, something very beautiful. We justifiably can be attached to that. We might think that might be the first time we ever experienced that. So it's really meaningful. However, if we use that as the kind of like high watermark for our practice, then we're just going, what happens the next time, Roger, when we miss that, when we can't be quiet? Like, oh, I wish that I could just be like how happy I was when I was still and quiet, So that happiness becomes another form of suffering. We are very good at this, in my opinion, anyways, I guess because I'm very good, hopefully less now than in the past, but comparing things like vacations. Like, wow, that one, the beach was perfect, the food was perfect, everything was perfect. So now that means that any conversation in the future, any trip or any experience that I have in the future is going to be framed in the reference of what I thought was perfect. So I'm not staying present in this moment right now.
Is that like letting go of expectations?
Yeah.
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 Because I know as I get older, my body changes, and I'm trying to stay as healthy as possible, but it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Weight loss is a struggle. There's lots of struggles in life right now, financial things, and to let go as I get older, to let go of my body, it's so hard for me to let go of like health or the wanting health. I think wanting help could be a healthy desire, but that still is a desire and an attachment on some level, and then it disturbs my peace because I'll make one more comment and then I'll be quiet. It's uh, I was listening to something with the OM, AUM,
Mm,
with the A stood for something, the U, the M, and then there's a dot on the OM symbol. And the person said the dot is the silence.
hmm.
And that really
Yes,
like said, wow, like but the silence is where it all begins. And you
exactly.
always pointed me in that direction. So whatever you ever shared with me, I said this last time and I'll say it again, I wouldn't be practicing Reiki. I have a couple of clients and it works out rather well because I keep the focus on myself and I keep the focus on self-healing while I'm working with them. And the sessions seem to work out very well. And I would have given up Reiki completely if it wasn't for you. Because the other
Oh,
way
well,
is just simply too hard. It's too
mm,
hard. I can't do it.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody put too many things in my head of what I should be doing, and I should do this, do that, and I can never get to that silence.
yeah.
So thank you. Forever grateful.
Oh, well, wow. Well, thank you, Roger. I'm so grateful to know that my small contributions to the practice have helped. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
More.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll comment on the statement of Om. Om is very important, what you're saying here. Uh, Maybe some of you listening now live and maybe with the recording in the future, it's even represented at Mount Kurama. If you're at the main temple on Mount Kurama, there's two statues of tigers, and one of them is Ah, and the other one is and together they're Om. And so the story comes that they were protecting Bishop Mon, or like the Bishop Mon is the representation of the North, the illumination of the universe. They were walking alongside of this central deity of the Karamadera temple and protecting him, as it were. That's not really true, but I think it facilitates the understanding here. What it's showing is if you have Ah and then Bishop Mon and Om, like at the end, then you have a clear understanding of the moment in Buddhism. A moment is, and this is actually something just like 10 minutes ago, I'm working on the big crux chapter of my book where I'm trying to describe all this, so I can talk about it a little bit here. A moment in Buddhism is a fundamentally impossibly short period of time. So we can't grasp it. It's far shorter than a second. Okay. But in that moment, we have an arising, we have a living, and we have a dying. Okay. And this is very important because we arise. Let's put it into a context of maybe let's say that 1 second represents one moment. Okay. So 1,000, 1,000. When I started that second and I ended that second, I was a very different person at the end of that second. There may have been a couple 100,000 cells that have been born and had died. Everything has changed in my body. Metabolism has taken place. Whatever my thoughts about this sentence are happening. So I'm a fundamentally very different person from the beginning to the end of that second. So the arising is when the second starts. The time between the second would be me living in that embodiment. And then the dying would be me going into the next moment. Okay. So this is discussed as Aum or Om. And like Roger's saying, there's a tiny dot at the end of the Om symbol, and it represents the silence. It represents the continuation of that expression into the universe. Now, there's something really beautiful when we practice this, when we chant Om. Uh, you know, I won't do it here because maybe it would take 1.5 minutes or whatever to do this. So I'll make it very brief. When you chant, you take a full breath And you start with ah, and you let the ah go, and it transitions into and then you let that exhaust your lungs. So for the sake of the talk, I'll make it brief, but it would be something like this. Oh. This pit part right here, where I'm still pressing out, is like the dot. Now, there's something very beautiful that happens here from our physiology. We are trying to let go and be present, and we arise in these moments. This is very fundamental to the practice of Usui Reiki Ryōhō, by the way, to be present in the moment right now. It's very fundamental in the practice of Christianity or in Buddhism, to be present, fully present. In presence, we can recognize the glory of Christ or the light of the Buddha. Only in presence can we recognize that. So chanting Om like this and extending it all the way out to the end of your breath, to the point where you're literally trying to push even the very bottom of your lungs to get a little bit more evacuation. This is very important. Many people don't breathe properly. Now, all of us have recognized a moment when we don't breathe properly. When we're nervous, we have shallow breaths, right? Maybe a lot of you have seen people in your Reiki practice where when you're working on them, you can notice that their diaphragm is locked and they can't actually breathe beyond the upper chest or up from the lower belly. You can see this quite often. So there's an aspect, a quite literal aspect of the small sacs in our lungs where the gases are not getting exchanged. If we can't evacuate the entirety of the lungs and the cavity of the lungs, then we're not letting go of all of the carbon dioxide in our lungs. And if any of this is confusing or whatever, please just like, hold on, can you explain that again? Just don't worry about interrupting. If we can't evacuate every little bit of carbon dioxide now and again, we don't have to do it all the time, but if we can't evacuate every bit, then there's a part of our lung that is quite literally panicking and suffocating. It's not dying, but it's exuding panic and fear. And this is one of the emotions of the heart center. So the practice of Om is a way to try to, in many ways, look at the precepts in action. We are trying to look at, just for today, do not worry. If we chant Om fully, then we press out all of the worry or the anxiety or the fear that's in our lungs, that's held in our lungs. And if that space is more at peace, and you can do this not by just chanting, you can do it with deep breathing and yogic breaths, box breathing, whatever it resonates with you. That Joshin Kokyo-ho in Reiki, it's the same. We're trying to breathe through the totality of the lungs and we're exhaling the totality of the lungs so that we can recognize peace, so we can find Koyodake wa Shinpai Suna, so we are not worrying in that space. If we don't worry, then we can recognize in many ways the illumination of Bishop Mon or the illumination of our true self. So Roger, what you were saying about, we stay focused on the practice of Reiki, recognizing that, yes, there might be a client on the table. Great. Yes, you might be doing your self-practice. Great. All of those are just simply about yourself. And Om helps us to recognize that. If there's somebody on the table and in my mind, I'm chanting Om, then I'm not recognizing the person on the table. I'm trying to be at peace. I'm trying to let the consciousness of myself evacuate and be free, if that makes sense. So that little dot is the importance of the symbol in many ways because it means we're trying to express it all the way out to the very last little aspect of our physical body so that we can transition into the universe. Now we have a lot of things, Roger, like my health, your health, everybody's health on the planet is at some form of decay, but that's just the physical form. It's not our true form. It's not our Christ form or our Buddha form or our Daikomyo self. That is boundless. And so Reiki, in a way, helps us to soften even that. So when I say things like, don't get attached, well, I had cancer. Okay. So moving through having cancer, if if I was to go back to me then and be like, oh, Bruce, but just don't attach, it's okay. I would have punched myself in the face. Like there's a time and space for these things to know because we're suffering, we suffer and it's very difficult. But Reiki, even though I wouldn't want to hear somebody say, like, hold on, just don't attach, you're fine, da da da. That's not what I needed. But what I did need and what Reiki did for me in that journey is it helped me to find the dot of Om as I was sitting there caught in my anxiety. It helped me to find a stillness inside that let me process the fear and the anxiety in real time. Hello there, Roxanne. Welcome. So, in being in that space, it helped me to be present with Shinshin Kaizen, Usui Reiki Ryōhō, helped me to work on my mind and then my body. So, I hope that all helped there, Roger, with your beautiful questions. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful to know that I've been of benefit. And you walking along with your practice, you walking and sitting with everything that you do, you joined for the Reiki shares, you're here quite often. That helps my practice. It's one and the same. So we're walking that the exact same place and the exact same frequency and cadence. So to you, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you do. Thank you. All right. Feel free to unmute yourselves. I'll look at the questions here as well, but let's see. So Lynn, and Roxanne, so what we're doing here, just to catch everybody up, and Caroline, this is an open forum conversation about Usui Reiki Ryōhō. So if you have questions on the practice, regardless of what your background with Reiki is, feel free to unmute yourself and let me know. Or if you would prefer, you can just type them in the questions or into the chat box, and then I'll get to that as soon as I can. So I'll look at Lynn's question here. I'd like to know about non-duality in Reiki. I think I get it, but it's very elusive at the same time. Yeah, for me and you both, Lynn. Non-duality is anybody who says that non-duality is not elusive is definitely not telling the truth. We live in duality. We live in form. This is another topic of my book. We exist in that form. So even if we can find increasing moments where there's increasing amounts of stillness, yes, we are getting closer to a non-dual perspective, but we can't fully recognize it. Now, we can't fully recognize it. I have to put some caveats here because I think there are ways that we can recognize this. Non-duality would be like the ability for me and my daikomyo self, my spirit, my soul, whatever you want to call it, the energy of the universe or source or whatever, all of that is the exact same. Okay, so it would be the opportunity for my form to have a greater, more fluid contact with my formless or my spirit, to recognize both. Like one point that I'm making in the book is that in form, we are constantly trying to walk back to formless. So either we will die and we become formless, we meditate and we become a little bit more formless, we pray, we do all these types of things, and we become a little bit more formless. And in our formless state, it must be as if we're trying to come back to form. So we're cycling like the infinity symbol back on each other. Now, in that conversation, there's one thing that I practice a lot alongside with Usui Reiki Ryōhō, and that is with psychedelics. I do a lot of plant work, a lot of plant medicine work. And here, the ability to temporarily rewire the mind gives us, I think, one of the clearest moments where we can touch or experience non-duality. We can be in a place where our ego mind loses its capacity. And that can be jarring, of course. It can be difficult, of course. But in that moment, the identity of the self is meaningless. And so if Bruce becomes meaningless, well, then I can very easily recognize that myself and this wall behind me, or myself and Roger, or myself and Roxanne, for the people who are on the video, we are not separated. We are part of the same energy. We have to be, because there's no sense of self. So this is a state where we are getting much closer to non-duality. I would venture to say that for those of you who have a dedicated practice, you have experienced something like that. even if it's just a flicker of a moment. When you're getting really deep into your practice of Reiki, and maybe you feel your hands are just moving on a client for no apparent reason, or you're very still and your mind shuts off and reality kind of fractures. That would be a brief glimpse of kind of non-duality. But we can't recognize that fully because we are always walking towards death. When there's night, then there's day. There's male, there's female, there's life, there's death. Everything in this world is yin and yang, or some modification of that. It's not just night and day, there's also dawn and dusk, right? So it transitions. So we're in that constant movement between aspects of duality in this embodiment. So as a first stab there, Lynn, let me know if that makes sense, if you have anything that you would like to add to that, or if you'd like me to follow up on anything. Recognizing non-duality is not the point, though. Making peace with duality, that's the point. That's really what we should be aiming for. And that is, like, I'm really grateful, again, Roger, for what you were saying. Like, the way Reiki is talked about, it's so difficult, it's so busy, there's so many things to do, symbols to memorize and upgrades to have, and all of this stuff, this noise, this constant noise that we have to go through. But none of that is discussed at all in Usui Reiki Ryōhō. I don't have any allegiance to Usui Reiki Ryōhō. I practice it because it demands that I release even the understanding of Usui Reiki Ryōhō, full stop. So everything in Reiki, the term Reiki, universal energy, the precepts, especially the titles of that supersede the precepts, Shofuku no Iho, Nambyo no Reaku. All of these things, they suggest a path towards your own connection or experience of Satori, or non-duality. Everything is about you and your journey in the practice of Reiki. It's not external. New lines of so-called Reiki, it's always external, and that's missing the point. So we have to see at some point that the only change that I can affect is myself. If I can recognize peace in my mind and my body, then by reflex, the entire universe must be at peace, because it's only through my observed sense of mind and state of being that my reality takes form. When I was going through my health issues, for sure, I was oscillating a lot on the side of fear and anxiety and all of that. And so that was the reality that was taking shape. But Reiki helped me to find a light of stillness inside of that chaos. And so Reiki helped me to be in a place of increased stillness. And that became more my reality, if that makes sense. So that's what Reiki is about. Okay. Usui Reiki Ryōhō is what I mean by that. So thank you for that. I hope that helps. Okay, so the next question here, Joseph, I think that is, what's your personal daily practice, or does it change each day? Let's see. And by all means, everybody, please unmute if you would like to share on this what your daily practice is as well. For my daily practice, it's usually in the evenings. And it is simply because that's a moment of peace. It's a moment when I've got the house to myself. I know it's going to be quiet. And it starts by just sitting in Zazen. I just sit and I wait. I wait for the inevitable storm of my mind to come back, because it'll come. It always happens. So Reiki is kind of a waiting game. And this is the beauty of what Shimpinen talks about. Shimpinen is the master level, if you can call it that, of Usui Reiki Ryōhō. Or in reality, the better way to put it is the mystery teachings. It's a mystery because we can't compartmentalize or contextualize Daikomyo, the energy of all things. So I sit in my practice and I try my best to be at peace. I try my best to simply rest. If something arises, I try to let it pass. There's a pain, there's a thought, a sensation, an observation. I try to just let that pass. my practice of Usui Reiki Ryōhō comes into play when it can't pass. So that pain is getting worse. Okay, then what am I going to do? Koyo dake wa ikaruna, shimpai suna, self-attunement, recite the precepts, recite the symbols, do the meditations, place the hands, maybe sit in Sesshin Toitsu. All of the different things that we learn in the practice of Usui Reiki Ryōhō are here to help us be with those moments of disturbance. Healing is not the focus of Reiki, regardless of how it's taught. It's not the focus. The focus is a still mind. If our mind is still, then healing will come as a byproduct, like it does every night when we sleep. So if I sit down with my practice of thinking I need to do this thing, then it increases the likelihood that I won't be able to do this thing because I'm attached to it. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't start a practice like that. If I've injured myself, twisted my ankle or whatever, and I'm in a lot of pain, well, that's going to be the focus of my practice for that day. I'll place my hands over the site of pain and try to rest, try to be at peace with it. Now, this changes every day because my state of being changes every day. In theory, I would like to be able to sit down and simply be with it and simply sit and stay with the neutrality of Zazen or Reiki Ryōhō. But my mind and my body will come back at some point, and I don't know when that's going to be. That's the same if I'm working with plants. That experience can be a little bit more intense. It can be a little bit more unavoidable, but the journey through it is still the same. Presence, patience, and peace. Just being there like that. Presence, patience, and peace. Hoping. And if it's too difficult, then I have a mantra that I recite all the time, which you're all very welcome, of course, to include, is to just observe, don't move, don't react. So if it's very difficult for me, it's just observe, don't move, don't react. Just observe. Now I'll say that until it's too difficult, because inevitably what happens is I'm sitting through whatever I'm trying to heal. So if I stay neutral, the healing or the release will speed up. So it'll become, in my case anyways, more difficult to stay neutral. So I try my best. And when I can't, then I fall back on the teachings of Reiki Ryōhō to help me try to get back to peace. Okay. So let's see, thank you for that. I hope that helps. And so I'll go on to the next question. And after this, then please, if anybody else has questions here, anything that they would like to discuss or add to the conversation, please. So also trying to deal with pain, both acute and chronic, from a place of spaciousness rather than zoning in on the pain like a migraine or a toothache. Yes, it's a very, very good point. Thank you for that. So I think that spaciousness and zoning in can initially be one and the same. For me, when I sit and there's a pain, I acknowledge it. I might focus on where it is. And I'm only saying for me because feeling in the body for me is very easy. I've got, for better or worse, I've got a very strong acuity to the body. So if I feel a pain, then I can zero in onto like what muscle it is or what tendon it is or what organ it is. I can feel the depth and the movements of things inside my body. Again, for better or worse, it's not magic. It's just what I have. Maybe some of you have that. Maybe some of you are visual and you can't feel as much. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter. But I'm saying that because I might isolate the area first to get a very strong sense and felt sense of where it is. And then it's almost like I'm just sitting there paying attention to it without story. So if I twisted my ankle, for instance, then I might zoom in with my mind, and this is very attached, it's very aware, it's not Reiki, I understand that. But I'll use that moment to get very hyper-focused on the location of pain. Maybe that's with the hand placements over the ankle, for instance, whatever it might be. And then I try to observe. I try to just observe the pain. And I try to let the pain just dissipate. Just sitting with it, just being with it. And it does, it leaves. It'll dissipate from the body. Now, is that healing? No, but it accentuates healing. It's part of the healing process. So in peace, in stillness, this is where we heal. Right? So maybe there's a route, and I'm not saying it's wrong by any means, to just sit and try to be completely neutral. That might be the best route possible. Under all circumstances, be neutral. Yes. But we're also human under all circumstances. And I think that would be very difficult. So maybe it's better to have an obtainable goal, like focus, observe, and watch it dissipate, as opposed to just trying to be completely neutral in the face of all of our attachments. That might be too difficult. So I hope that helps. And please give me a follow up there if you have anything. All right. Thank you for that. Marina, I hope I'm saying your name correctly though. So the question is, hi Bruce, do you have times that you feel detached from everything, and how do I handle that? Absolutely, yes. There's times where I wouldn't say everything, everything. I don't know. Um, a lot of things, yes, and it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful, very peaceful place. Um, It's very still, it's very quiet. But usually, in order to, why I'm hesitating, I'm trying to think about this, is because usually getting to that moment, I've had to walk through the storm already. So the practice has been difficult. Uh, One of the ways I try to describe it in my teachings and to my students and when I'm leading ceremonies and stuff is like I have to walk through the fire of whatever today is going to release. That fire is fake. It's not going to burn me, but it's going to feel like it's burning me, but I have to walk through it. So if I walk through it and I release the totality of that thing, then I can reside in the spaciousness that it's created. And in that spaciousness, there's nothing left to do. There's simply just existing. Now, I sit in front of a statue of the Amitabha Buddha. It could very well be Christ. It could be anything. It doesn't make any difference. That represents our self in stillness. That's what these kind of statues or depictions of these deities represent, our true self. So if we can get there, that's really beautiful. But it's not the destination, it's not the journey. Sorry, it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey. If I sat down, absolutely, if I sat down with the focus on being in stillness, I'll never get there because I'm already setting myself up for failure. So I'm sitting down trying to be present and aware with whatever happens. And for me, inevitably, what happens is it looks something like this. This is usually how the session goes, both on psychedelics or just with Reiki Ryōhō, or both, doesn't make any difference. Calm at the start, friction or turbulence starts to pick up, and then I fall into that space of difficulty, processing whatever it might be, and I try my best to sit with it. And if I can sit with it, there might be a peak or a crest where I get into stillness. And then it might descend again into something difficult, and then I might come back out into more stillness. Now, how do I deal with that stillness? Well, for me, it's a very tricky little place to be in because I simultaneously get deceived by my mind into recognizing that I just felt something that was very quiet. And in that deception, I'm now back into my suffering because I'm attached again. So I have to try my best to not be attached. So I'm simultaneously aware, which then leads to deception. And I'm also trying to just breathe or be in that space to the best of my ability. Some days it's easier than others. And that's that's the best I can say. Another thing that I can say to this, though, is stillness and mental silence are the thing that I'm talking about here. Satori, a light enlightening awareness in the moment, Buddha nature, Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is not at all foreign. And I'm certain that everybody in this call and listening in the future has had moments of this. I'll give another example that I think is relatable. To me, and maybe some of you have read, The Lord of the Rings, right? Of course, everybody knows Lord of the Rings. The last time I read that, I couldn't put it down. And like I was reading from, 10 p.m. until like 4 or 5 in the morning. I just couldn't stop. That's almost the same level of stillness. Just replace the book with Reiki and it's the same thing. My mind is not aware of myself. It's not aware of my trajectory, my course, my practice, whatever it might be. This is a one-pointed mind. So right now I'm talking to you, you're hopefully listening and you're paying, giving me your time and your grace of consciousness. So we are not in a one-pointed mind right now. We are in a multifaceted mind, many different things. The temperature in the room, my posture, Zoom, everything, dinner that's being created and cooked in the other room, all of that stuff is distractions to me, just like it is to you, right? So if I whittle away all those distractions, I can get to a one-pointed mind. If I let go of the one-pointed mind, which would be to put down the practice of Usui Reiki Ryōhō and simply reside, then that would be the zero-pointed mind, or Satori, if we can get there or not. That's kind of the point. So yeah, I hope that helps. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. The topic here, this is something that I'm actively exploring. It's the part, this is the goal of Reiki, by the way, to feel an increased familiarity with stillness. Again, it's the precepts, the hand placements, the symbols. Everything that we're doing in the practice of Reiki Ryōhō is to quiet down the nature of our mind. If that is gone, if the mind is completely gone, well, where are we then? Every night when we have a deep sleep, where's your mind then? You're in stillness. So we have all experienced this. We experience it almost every night. And that's very comforting to me. And it's something that is, forms the backbone of the practice of Reiki Ryōhō. So it's something that I think about and work towards a lot. I'll be talking on this with the Monroe Institute in November here in Europe, in Italy. In Venice, I'll be giving a talk called The Zero-Pointed Mind, Pathways to Expanded Consciousness. And this is what I'm getting into, is how can we explore states of consciousness that will facilitate us recognizing no consciousness or stillness or the dot at the end of Om. Even if it's very fleeting, then maybe we can get there. Right? If I practice Reiki from the idea that I'm going to connect to an angel or heal myself or somebody else or use the symbols of Usui Reiki Ryōhō to make the energy more powerful or whatever, then I'm not practicing anything. I'm staying stuck in my mind. It's a delusion. So I can't engage in any of those things if I want to recognize Onsen Ritsune or the great Reiki above our heads, which is what Usui Sensei recognized in his moment of Satori on Mount Kurama. It's the same idea. Yeah. So I hope that helps with that. So thank you. So that's a huge question. It's where we were all hoping to go in the practice. I think the most important thing there is getting there is not the point. Full stop, 100%. There's a great quote in Buddhism that I love. It's, if you meet the Buddha on the street, you should kill him. And this is the idea that if somebody proclaims that they have found Satori, they have definitely not found Satori. 100%. 100%. If it was that easy, then we would all be Daikomyo. We wouldn't be struggling in this embodiment with all of our attachments and delusions and all that type of stuff. So it's very elusive. But there's something very comforting about it, in that if we can only recognize it just once in our life, then we will reach Satori. We will recognize enlightenment. And I know the immediate response to that might be like, yeah, but I don't even know how to recognize it once. Guess what? You will recognize it, because we'll die. That's the moment that is guaranteed. The moment of oneness will be when we die. So then we can think about, what if our Reiki practice or our yoga practice or whatever our spiritual journey, in whatever form that is for you, what if instead of viewing that as outcome or results or need or want, what if we see that simply as a meditation on the moment of our inevitable death, so that we can die at peace? Well, then we will have our moment of Satori and we will die at peace. In Tendai Buddhism, this is going into, in Pure Land Buddhism, this is going into the Pure Land. It's recognizing the Buddha nature of all of us. In Christianity, it would be entering heaven. We die without attachment. So we have a practice in this life to soften all of our attachments. if that makes sense. Okay. So Lynn, thank you for the follow-up there. What is my book called and has it been released? It has not been released yet. I'm now on the very, very final read through of it. And like I was saying earlier, I'm just working through the heaviest chapter, I think, right now, which is where I'm trying to conceptualize and quantify the moment from a Buddhist perspective and a perspective of scientific inquiry, where I'm focusing on astrophysics. I've got a background in astronomy, so it's something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm trying to blend those together to give a conceptual, concrete understanding, or at least concrete, metaphoric approach to what a moment is and how we can understand that. So the book is called Touching Silence, Energy, Stillness, and the Power to Heal. And I'll be sending an email out about that as soon as I have it ready. It's in its very final stages now, though, so I'm very excited. It's been a 4-year journey at this point, so it's a little bit surreal to think that it's almost done. So everybody, yeah, thank you, Roger. I appreciate it. It's very surreal. Once it's in my hands and published, which I hope is going to be in the next few weeks, that's going to be a moment of like, wow, there's manifestation in form, I guess. So there we go. 4 years. Writing a book is no joke, or maybe I'm just not meant to be an author. I don't know. I'll let all of you decide that if you pick one up. So thank you very much for that. So, Andreas, let's see. So one can say reading Lord of the Rings could be as beneficial as a Reiki session. Yes, 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 it can. Yes, it absolutely can. Because, thank you for that, Andreas. Thank you. Yes, if you are teaching Reiki, as I think many of you are, how comforting would it be for a student to recognize that? Because they're learning something from you that they might think like, wow, okay, so Andreas has like, he can feel all this energy. He's been studying it so long, or Bruce goes to Japan and works for all these people. So it's got to be I'm never going to get there. Yes, you are. You read Lord of the Rings and you lost your mind in Lord of the Rings. You fell into the story and the writings that Tolkien was creating. That is Daikomyo, that's Satori. Notice what happens, and this is something as well that's in the book, when we are engaging in something that gets us to a one-pointed mind. It's like a distraction. Hello there, Maria. So welcome to the talk. We are discussing everything on Usui Reiki Ryōhō. So a very warm welcome to you. You're very welcome at any moment to drop in your questions into the chat, or you can simply just let me know what your questions are and anything that we can address here to help you with your journey with the practice. So the question that I'm just looking at here is from a conversation prior to you joining, which was about the nature of our practice, and is Reiki the only way that we can cultivate the benefits of Reiki? Reiki is simply a practice to quiet our minds and get us closer to the recognition of one thing. So let me give an example in a Reiki perspective. And while I'm giving this example, everything that I say about Reiki, just replace that with a book like Lord of the Rings. Okay. So when I sit down and I begin my practice, I begin to become engrossed in the practice. I feel the hibiki, I feel the hand placements. Maybe I think about time on Mount Kurama, I think about the journey, I think, but that thinking becomes refined. It settles to just the experience that is the most difficult to get rid of. So the most difficult thing to get rid of in a Reiki session might be simply your hand on your body. You feel that, like I can feel the warmth, the skin, the hair on my arm. I can feel that with my hand. So I have to let go of one of my 5 senses to really be still. So that might be the hardest thing to let go of. The hardest thing to let go of a book would be the story. So in that process, though, I've let go of all my external distractions and I'm just focused on the last thing. Maybe it's Lord of the Rings. Maybe it's Harry Potter. It doesn't make any difference. Maybe it's Reiki. As I'm focused on just one thing, the storm of my attachments is moving through me. It's moving past me. Like if I've had a really bad day, for instance, then all of that attachment, the story in my mind, all of that, that's looping back and I'm suffering. If I sit down and I read a good book, practice Reiki Ryōhō, I go fly fishing like I love to do, meditate like I love to do. All of those things give me, in a way, and I mean this with all due respect, I don't mean this with any type of lessening of the practice, but they serve as almost a distraction from my attachments at the beginning. When I start to fly fish, for instance, immediately when I'm doing the casting, that's a meditation. So my day is gone at that moment. So the things that made me annoyed up until that moment, they were with me, but now I'm fishing, so they're gone. Now I'm reading, so they're gone. Now I'm practicing Reiki, so they're going away. As they go away, my attachments to those things are dissipating. And I'm then arising in every moment that I'm within the practice with less awareness of what it was that I'm annoyed about, if that makes sense. I'm trying to give I'm dancing around a couple of topics here in this question because I think it's been very comforting for people to realize that Reiki is not the only way to recognize this type of peace. You know, another way to think about it like this, to Andreas's question, is if I have a bad day and I go to sleep, we've all experienced this. You go to sleep, you have a good night's sleep, you wake up the next day. There's a moment when you wake up where you don't remember that bad day previously. You wake up, you're like, oh, wow, that was a good night's sleep. Oh, yeah, yesterday was really like it has to come back. Your attachments have to come back. So, in the moment of sleeping, the process of sleeping, you thought of letting go of all of those things. So then the practice of Reiki would be, and this is why we say the precepts at the very, hopefully, as soon as we wake up in the morning, sleep cleared your desk. It freed your attachments. So when we get up in the morning, shofuku no iho, nambyo no reaku, koyo dake wa ikaruna, shinpai suna, kansha shite, gyoagume, shito ni shinsetsu ni. Doesn't matter about yesterday because yesterday doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist either. This right here is right now. So if I wake up and then I start my day by remembering about how annoyed I was from yesterday, now I'm suffering again. So I'm going against all the precepts. I'm giving that example because it's something here that we can probably all relate to. You know, that makes, I hope that makes something more tangible. Reiki can seem to be so like mystical, so magical, like especially in the West, how it's talked about, like upgrades and opening chakras and becoming conduits of energy and beaming energy out of our hands and doing all this type of stuff to clean the energy in rooms and all those types of things. That's all in my mind. It's only here. If my mind's at peace, then none of those things have any weight. They don't have any merit. So I have to work on my mind. That's it. Shin Shin Kaizen. There's a reason that the hand placements start over the eyes and work on the head first. There's a reason that it's Shin Shin Kaizen, that we have to work on the mind first. If the mind's at peace, the universe is at peace. Full stop. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I hope that was a tangible example. trying to cycle through. I used to be a secondary school teacher before moving into Reiki and all that. So trying to give as many off the cuff examples that I can. So hopefully some of them land. That's kind of how my job was. So thank you, Marina. I would be very happy to walk with you. Thank you very much. If you're still here, I don't think you're still. Yes, you are still here. So thank you very much for your comment there. And if this is all resonating, then feel free to reach out to me and we can walk. All right, everybody. So I hope that helps. Is there anything else any other questions on your minds, any other talking points, anything about the practice that I can help with? It's amazing. We've already been going about an hour. That's incredible. Any last points here? There was one question that I'll jump into very quickly. I've just remembered it. It was from Clayton. I'm going to say Clayton because I'm pretty confident Clayton will be watching this later. His question was, how does he explain, or how can I explain the title of Reiki or what Reiki is to other people? What definition do you use for Reiki? So forgive me, Clayton, if this is just off my memory, so I'm probably misquoting you there. My apologies on that. But I believe that the question was something like, how can I explain what Reiki is to somebody else? That's a big question as well. Because most people will be wanting to understand what Reiki is from the perspective of healing. If they've heard about Reiki, if they're coming to you with that type of question, then most likely they don't know what Reiki is, but they've heard about it. And they've most likely heard about it from somebody who had, most likely, anyways, a session that was worth telling somebody else about. You know what I mean? Like, look, like if I had never heard about Reiki and then my friend was a Reiki practitioner, I went and it was the most meaningless thing in my life. I wouldn't go to somebody else and be like, hey, man, can you tell me more about Reiki? It would be forgotten. I wouldn't think about it. And why I'm setting it up like that is because it's probably already being framed within containers that don't justify what Reiki is. Reiki is not a healing modality. It's not a modality to do anything to the outside world, to the external world. It's a practice on our minds. That's it. So, how I talk about Reiki is it is a practice that is similar to many other practices that work on cultivating internal stillness or internal peace in my mind and my body. If my mind is calm and at rest, then I will be more in a parasympathetic state, which we all know. I'll just be at peace. I'll be at rest. I'll be out of stress. And in that state, my body can heal more naturally. So healing becomes a byproduct of Reiki. Reiki is like a meditation, if that sits well with you. It's like prayer. It is a journey going into the nature of the self so we can recognize our suffering and release it. Now, that's a mouthful. I'm saying many different ways that I might talk about it. When I'm working in Hong Kong, in communities that are obviously at least Asian, but most likely Asian with a Buddhist perspective, then I might say it differently than when I'm working in the United States, which is a Christian, American perspective. There'd be different ways to talk about it. If I was in the US, I might talk about it in terms of Christianity, about what Reiki is, because there's a huge disconnect. People who are, Christians are quite often saying that Reiki is the antithesis of Christianity. It's not at all acceptable. It is channeling demons. Da, 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 da. Like none of that could be further from the truth. Jesus was a Reiki practitioner. If you want to think about it, Jesus did hands-on healing all the time. Jesus is you. You are the energy of the universe. I've made a video about this on my YouTube channel, which is Reiki and Christianity and why they're not at odds. They're not fighting each other. The kingdom of heaven lies within. Know me as I am. Like all these things are showing you that you are already the creation of God. So Reiki is helping us to turn into that. So I might talk about it in different terms. Yeah. So yeah, so you get healing this is what I'm saying here. So the Maria's statement here is she's had immense healing from Reiki. So have I. So that's one of the byproducts of the practice. It's not the aim of the practice, though. And what I mean by that is if I sit down with an ailment, like I'm hurt, let's say I dislocate my finger, for instance, and I sit down and I start to work on my finger with Reiki. If I start to think then this practice is going to heal my finger, it's going to stop the swelling and all of that type of stuff, it will help. But if I get fixated on the outcome of healing, then I'm staying locked in my attachments and it most likely won't come. However, if I surrender my mind, okay, yes, my finger hurts, it's dislocated, it's now back, but it's inflamed, it's throbbing, it really, really hurts. Can I put my hand over my finger and try my best to be quiet in my mind? Yes, it hurts, but I'm not thinking about it. I'm trying to breathe through it. Then healing happens naturally. It happens as a byproduct of stillness, just like I was saying earlier, when we sleep. When we sleep, we heal because we get out of the way of the natural systems and functions of the body and what they do anyways. That's how the body itself functions. So Reiki is a way to cultivate a similar state of getting out of the way and letting the body return to balance, return to stasis. Another point that I'm raising in the book, because this is something that is very accessible in our practice of Reiki or mindfulness, any of these things, is as we heal, we might see things and we might get seduced by these things. In my practice, I'm not going to go into specifics. In your practice, you can think about the specifics because it's all personal. That's why I won't go into it. But many deities come, many voices come, many experiences and visions and lights and feelings happen. The way that we need to, in my opinion, to understand that is, again, going back to the definition of Reiki. And this is to the point of how can Reiki not be healing? People heal from it. Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at here and further articulate. Reiki means universal energy in its most abbreviated definition. It means the energy of all things. So that means it's equally the energy of me and the energy of the Virgin Mary or of Christ or of any of you. We are all the same energy. Everything in the universe and everything that is imagined in this universe and believed and felt and experienced, all of that is part of the same energy. It doesn't need to be called Reiki. It can be anything you would like: universal energy, God, the Buddha, Chi, prana, the Big Bang. Doesn't make any difference. You can call it whatever you want. So if I'm going through my healing and I'm experiencing, I'll just stay with the Blessed Virgin here, or Kenon, Kuan Lin, the same. That's the same deity. If I need to turn in to myself because I need to heal something where I might need an abundance of compassion for myself, maybe that's because there's a physical wound that is really needing tenderness and softness to heal, like the divine feminine would provide. Or maybe that's because I'm looking at a memory from childhood that needs that space, that tenderness, that compassion, that love. When we sit in a practice that is cultivating mindlessness, walking towards a one-pointed mind and then trying to be at a zero-pointed mind, we will sit in the storm of our attachments. They will come up, right? So you've probably all experienced that. The more quiet you become, the more negative the chatter can become, the more painful the experience can become, whatever, okay? So when the thing comes up that we're trying to heal, we might see the Virgin, we might see the Blessed Mother who will appear, or you might see green, or you might have these experiences to shepherd us through that difficult moment. Because the chaos is coming out of you in that moment. You're experiencing it in full. So instead of experiencing it and then crying and reliving it and attaching to it and then blaming and then all this type of stuff, that's just re-traumatizing, if that makes sense. We're re-traumatizing, we're reattaching to the experience. So while that torrent of release is happening, we might have this moment of like, oh my God, it's the Divine Mother. Oh my God. I'm not speaking from, this is not a personal example that I'm subtly saying here. That's not the point. I'm just giving a general example. We might see this thing that has a very specific meaning to us. And in that moment, she will ferry us through or shepherd us through that difficult moment of healing. So instead of attaching to the chaos, we are guided by the divine. And so we have these experiences. The trap, though, becomes in thinking that that's special and then telling that to other people and teaching about it and saying that you can channel these things and doing all of that, because you are part of all of those things. So it is simply the energy of you. Like I love this this was on the pilgrimage 2 years ago in Japan, in the 2024, was it? Yeah, 2024 pilgrimage. We were walking with the head priest of Mount Kurama, and somebody was going through this. They had come to the mountain to heal. Okay. They had come there to cathartically try to release. And you could see they were nervous. They were talking about things. They were having releases. They were having all these types of moments and stuff. And they were asking a question that I won't repeat here because it was personal. But they were asking a question that was very much like, how can I heal? This is in broad generalities here, but this is not what they said. But effectively it was, I'm here on Mount Kurama. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm here to heal. Let's just keep it at that in general terms. Okay. I traveled to Mount Kurama. I practice Reiki. I'm here to heal. Reiki heals, right? The head priest was like, yes, but we come to the mountain to listen to the mountain, not to heal. If we listen to the mountain, then whatever we need to let go of will happen in its natural form. If we come to the mountain with a directive, then we'll miss the point. There's a big difference in those. If we surrender, if we try to maintain and cultivate peace, then all of our healing will take place because we're not attaching to it. But if we sit down and we demand, then we've attached and we've missed the practice of Shinshin Kaizen, Usui Reiki Ryōhō. So there's a big difference in many ways in the way that Reiki is taught versus the way that it was originally practiced. One of the byproducts of surrendering, this is too much to get into, and I've got it on my some of the previous talks. You can look on my YouTube channel about the discussion that I have, one of these roundtables where I was talking about the journey on Mount Kurama. But one of the byproducts of surrendering to the mountain is healing, is getting the ability to heal. One of these kind of like mystical, magical byproducts of going to the mountain and facing your fears, then you get bestowed this like magic gift to heal. I'm not saying that with grandiose language. What I'm saying is if you go and you surrender yourself to the mountain and you let go, then you will witness in live, real time your healing taking place, because you'll be cradled by maybe Kenon, Maoson, Bishamon, Fudo Myo. You'll be cradled maybe in the wisdom and the space of every deity that's on the mountain. And they might help shepherd you through your own storm so you can recognize peace. And then that becomes in hindsight, then you'll recognize your healing. So Maria, I hope that helps. Please, this is a really beautiful question that you're raising here. And I hope that my response there helped to clarify that. Please do feel free to add further to that, or if there's anything that you would like clarified, I'm very happy to give my thoughts. And to anybody else, if you have anything here that you would like to add for the conversation. Well then, everybody. Maria, are you good on that? Or is there anything that I can add before we might wrap it up? Yes, thank you very much. There will be a replay of this so everybody knows. I'll be dropping this recording onto my YouTube channel. That'll be up tomorrow, and you'll be able to watch that whenever you wish. So thank you, everybody, for a beautiful conversation. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your dedication to walking through the practice. Your dedication is a mirror of my dedication, just like mine is a mirror of yours. So keep walking, keep learning, keep practicing, keep surrendering, and keep working on the nature of your mind. Shinshin Kaizen, Usui Reiki Ryōhō. Thank you, everybody. Be well. In Gosho to all. And if you ever have any questions, or you would like to walk with me, if you would like to journey together, reach out. You can see me in the Usui Reiki Ryōhō Facebook group. You can go to rootsoflife.org. You can reach out to me from my YouTube channel. Anything that I can do to help you, because we're all walking this journey together. So from my heart to yours, everybody, thank you so much. Have a beautiful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.